So how do we start to practice reciprocity, right? That I collect the seeds and I put back the native plants so the insects can be here, which then feed the birds. So all of a sudden we start to see that life starts to grow again around us, which brings us a sense of peace and purpose.
Welcome to the Zen Den, a podcast designed to help you discover your authentic inner peace. These episodes are intended for everyone, regardless of their background. We explore the question, how can we find inner peace in today's world? Together, let's awaken our higher consciousness and allow our individual truths to shine. It's time to learn how to live in harmony. Your host, Maggie Calder, a former Buddhist nun monk who studied directly with respected spiritual masters, shares her wisdom on the infinite possibilities of life. Now, here's Maggie with today's episode of the Zen Den.
Hi, welcome everyone. And it just means so much to us that you're here with us. I feel so happy and joy that I have my dear friend, LoriAnn Bird, with me. And we're just going to have a nice journey together. So I hope you enjoy the show. LoriAnn, share a little bit about just some of your background and your passions and some of the great stuff that you do. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Maggie, for inviting me to come here first. Let me just say that. Yeah, what are my passions? What's my background? Well, I'm mixed ancestry, so that's a combination of Indigenous and European. And the reason I bring that to the conversation is because I really feel at this time it's really important that we embrace where we're from. Like, what's our stories? What's our history? What's our language? What are those teachings that we may have lost along the way? So for me, that's really important. So that's part of my passion. The other part of my passion, and there are many really, is teaching about plants, about our wild, our native plants, the medicinal plants, and how we reclaim and re-enter our living world in relationship. And you were so connected to it. Lori has done a beautiful book. Do you want to share a little bit about that? Yeah, that's a really interesting story. So I've been living on the lands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam people, what is known as Vancouver, and living there for almost 40 years. And because I'm outside as an educator, I'm starting to notice the landscape is changing. And then in that noticing, that witnessing, seeing how sterile it's become. And I have a love of birds. So, we pick up a lot of our loves and passions from our family. And my dad loved birds. He had bird houses in the backyard and bird feeders and such. So, that's just kind of a natural progression. I was really noticing how that population is disappearing. Trees are being cut. There's not leaf on the ground. There's no home for insects. So all of a sudden, as we witness again, we start to see what's missing. And because of that love, I one day said to the birds that I noticed were responding to my love. If you want me to help you, you have to make it happen. And a week later, I get a phone call from a publishing house on the east coast of what we refer to as Turtle Island and asked me if I'd write a book about plants. And of course, it's not just about plants. It's really about a way of living. It's a way of how we're responding to the world, because there's never any but, and how we are the guardians, how we recognize that everything that is living is our relations. So the plant life, and as many know, I work with the brain. We call it Schumann frequency. It's the highest frequency above any brain wave. And this very high frequency, our plant life, when we don't have it or it diminishes or we remove it, especially the ancient plant life, how does our body get affected? What happens? Have you experienced something like that when the plant life is not at the stage that you know it used to be? It can affect you, or?
Well, I think it's like for any of us, it brings up a lot of grief, right? It also brings up a lot of what can I do, right? I feel powerless, right? That there's no hope. What I noticed is if we can understand our ecosystem, and eco is a Latin word which means home, then we can see everything is actually connected. I need to think about what are those narratives or what are those programs that is taking away habitat, which is taking away life, which then obviously has an effect on us too. Because something I learned the other day, Maggie, which is so beautiful. When we hear the birds singing, it relaxes our parasympathetic system. We feel safe. And I really started to think about that, like in terms of how much anxiety we have, how much worry we're having. That then becomes that frequency. It's like, that neural pathway gets thicker and thicker, and then we start living our lives in there. But if we learn to know what it feels like to feel safe, then we can start to cultivate that.
Right. And so many people, well, it's proven fact. If you go for a walk in the forest or even in a park, there's some calming that happens to the system. Something happens where you're like, a breath is taken, that nervous system is calmed down, and that plant life, even if it's a park, the grass, laying on the grass. Actually, you were talking about the importance of that. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, a couple things came up is, yeah, for sure. When we're touching the earth, through our bare feet or laying or touching with our hands in the garden, that is going to release a bunch of different chemicals in the brain that makes us feel good, right? The other is when we're walking through the forest, we're smelling those aerosols. And sense of smell, of course, also affects us in our emotional state, because it's going into the limbic part of the brain, which is where our emotions and our memories are stored. So those aerosols that we're inhaling is going to start to shift that, but it's also going to be really good for the lungs, right? Because it's going into the body, right? So it's actually healing the body.
Right.
So nature is healing us. Swimming in the ocean helps to regulate our high blood pressure.
Well, when you were just saying that, I was thinking one time we went for a walk in the forest and I had this kind of a little upset stomach. And I said to LoriAnn, I said, oh, can we walk a little slower or something like that? Because my stomach's a little upset. And she went, oh, no problem. And she walked over to this tree and it looked like she was just holding this tree, holding her hand on the tree. And you actually gave me a piece of sap or gum from the tree, and you said, oh, just chew that like gum. And I chew it for a few moments, and my stomach went better. And I'm like, what was that? Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, it's that experience that I've witnessed for myself, but in others, is when we actually go back to the plants for nourishment, for healing, for nutrition, all of that, we're amazed at it. Because I feel in this language, we've created a separation from that which sustains us. And really, when we think about it, plants give up their lives for us to have our life. So how do we start to practice reciprocity, right? That I collect the seeds and I put back the native plants so the insects can be here, which then feed the birds. So all of a sudden we start to see that life starts to grow again around us, which brings us a sense of peace and purpose, or a legacy, that it's like we've stepped back into regenerating the earth.
Right. So for our city listeners, because maybe some people from the city are there and they don't have kind of the abundance that we have of nature around us, is there any suggestion that they can do to maybe help have this higher plant life around them, or a plant life that can support them as just everyday living.
Well, I noticed in your home here, you have some orchids. And I think they're misunderstood because they go through cycles. They will put out lots of blooms and then they sleep and then they put blooms out again. And so a lot of times people think, oh, the plant's not going to bloom again, and they get rid of the plant. But really, what we need to do is start to learn their cycles. So when we have to caretake for someone, when we have to pay attention that they need some water or the proper kind of sunlight, it gives us purpose. It makes us actually feel good.
Oh, I just got a thought when you said that. So are you saying don't just have a plant in your house just because it's pretty and nice and you like it? More so, when you have a plant in your house, have some kind of relationship by learning what it is, learning how best to take care of it, like you would your beautiful animal or something, or your dog or your cat. You want to learn what's the best food for the animal or the best way to care for it. Why not the plant system?
Exactly. And the gift of that happened for me, because I mentioned earlier to you that people were leaving them out on the sidewalk because they didn't understand, right? They're thinking, oh, they're not going to bloom again. And in that love and that attention and that care, I've had them bloom either on my mother's birthday in March or my father's birthday in April. And for me, I'm just like, oh my goodness. So that's that reciprocity. We're witnessing each other. We're taking care of each other. We're gifting.
And we've known for years how trees give an oxygen that we need. They support us that way. So the trees are crucially, I have a great connection with trees because of how much they support the human need. Yeah. So, and at the Zen Den, we want to find out how to find that Zen state. And we're talking about the earth here, our beautiful plant system, relationship with the human system. So how would you find that Zen state, that inner peace related to that? What would be some of the things? Because you're a bit of an expert. Well, she is an expert, in my opinion. But really, what would you find that what you would do that would give you that deeper inner peace with the support of the plant life, the earth life?
Well, first of all, I'd say I'm a student, right? Because really, what a gift to be in my 6th decade and what I'm learning now that I had no idea. And, this wonder and, surprises me and just blows my mind at how much more to understand, in particular, this living system, right? That how do I nourish it? How do I take care of it? How can I live, hopefully, a long life? I always tell everybody, on your 104th birthday, we're going to see the sun, the moon, and Venus in the same position as the sky as the day we were born. So like, what a beautiful way for us to be thinking, oh yeah, let's walk a long time. So again, what's been showing up as I've been learning about the plants, learning more about my body, this technology, and how do I find that inner peace that you're talking about? Like, what are ways that can really help me feel connected? And I would say probably really just being outside and witnessing, listening, hearing the bees. Hearing the bees actually helps us with, PTSD, excuse me. And that stillness that I often think about my ancestors, like we're living in a world that is moving so quickly. We're being inundated, distracted, busy, full, that it's like, oh, what does it feel like to think about my ancestors in their own stillness, in my own stillness? And in that place to kind of let my nervous system unwind and regulate, and then find that peace. That, like, I can feel it as I'm saying it right now.
So
Like,
when you say find that peace, what does that really mean?
Well, I would describe it really as a stillness. It's interesting. I mean, for each of us, what does that really feel like? Oh, I know what I say usually. is it's juicy. Like there's a juiciness to it. And it's only because my whole life I've been moving so quickly, moving all the time, right? Always like, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. So to learn how to be still has been a new practice for me. And then also recognizing, well, there have been other things that calmed my mind, like riding my bike or going for a walk. I've just started to do painting and sketching, being present, doing an illustration of a plant. It helps you to let go of that outer world and just be present in that moment.
So in that moment where you are using your senses, looking, listening, all feeling, smelling, this is all nature, activates all our senses for us. That helps you find that inner state of peace. And then something else came to me when you were talking. I did some studies around wind blowing leaves on trees. And the study was when the sun is shining and you're laying under the tree and the leaves are blowing, the way the leaves blow, and this is the wind, moving these leaves produces gamma brainwave, and gamma is a brainwave that allows us to feel calm, grounded, and centered. So it's like a natural connection, harmony together.
Oh my goodness. And you know, it's interesting because my good friend just today told me when he was going through his challenges, his, you know, advisor, therapist, whoever, I'm not sure exactly what the title was, said, go watch the leaves blowing in the wind. It's really these simple practices. They don't have to be complicated. It's really just us taking that time and almost scheduling it in our day to say, I'm going to have a stillness break. I'm going to practice my breath. I'm going to, you know, just let go for a few minutes.
Yeah. And then finding some form of nature, because it's so pure, it's not trying to prove anything or be anything. It just is what it is. But it's constantly. I did some work in Italy where I have a machine that can plug into the plant and you can hear the frequency of the plant. So you can hear the music of the plant. And plants are constantly giving out sound and vibration. This is incredible. And I just found when, you know, hearing about what you're doing with what you have in your book and other things that you're doing, it always points back to nature. It always points back. Listen, yes, we have a busy life. Yes, it's crazy. It's overwhelming at times. Isn't that the time to stop and just be with nature for a bit?
We got a big teaching in 2020 to slow down. Right?
Yeah.
So we could catch up.
Right. And in that slowing down, some people felt very uncomfortable because they're used to the system being in that hyper mode. And that is a normal feeling when you break a pattern, the brain pattern of, oh, I have to be busy doing all the time. And 2020 made the whole world go, time out, everybody.
Let's pause. And pause and reflect, right? And I think that's what's beautiful when we put these practices in. It gives us an opportunity to also reflect. Is this really what I want to be doing? Is this the right road? Is this the right decision? Or how is it that I'm going to design whatever I'm doing? So do you see, like it allows us to allow that creativity and our imagination to surface.
And so is there anything else that comes to you around your book or anything that you've done with the plant life that you would like to share a little bit more on?
What I really love about the book, one is it's really beautiful. The team that put it together, the layout, all of that. I had a friend do the illustration, another friend do the photographs. It has teachings at the beginning of the book, which are around responsibility and reverence and respect. And, you know, what was interesting about respect, Maggie, is that it's something that is not intrinsic to who we are. We have to be taught that. And I see that missing a lot in our culture, like not respecting that, you know, Mother Earth gives us life, right? Like, where is that reciprocal relational practice. I talk about over 96 plants in the book, and they're wild plants. So again, narratives that have happened around, say in particular, like dandelion or chickweed or purslane, where we think these are weeds, but they're actually cultural foods, in particular, if we come from Europe. So being of mixed ancestry, these are actually the foods our ancestors were eating.
My grandmother used to make dandelion soup all the time.
Yeah. And then it's so helping to bring awareness. So that's that reclaiming. Then why the native plants are so important for the ecology of the geography of where we're living. And these are plants we find all over North America or Turtle Island. Also, what are the medicines? Like Mediterranean plants, they're all antiviral. We should be cooking with them, making tea. You know, rosemary, for example, is a great dreaming tea. So how are we supporting all of this experience in our human body? One is dreaming. So how do we support our dreaming? And then the last section of the book is giving you recipes. How do you make your healing skin salve? How do you make the alcohol tincture? Why is apple cider vinegar tincture so important for us? So we can have those minerals that can then feed the endocrine system, our hormones. So I'm hoping it's really a book that, you know, whether you're a lawyer, that you recognize there's a law of nature here that can't be broken. Whether you're a landscape architect, why we want to really foster that type of habitat. In fact, some landscape architects are talking about 50% of our landscape should be wild. City planners, how we might want to design differently in terms of making sure that water is getting to the plants before it actually goes to the drain.
Interesting.
Right? So, and then school teachers, families, herbalists, whoever is just interested in really thinking about gardeners transforming their garden. And it's not about taking things out of the garden, it's about adding in. We want those wild berries. We want those beautiful dark blues and blackberries in our diet to help cleanse the body, take out those microplastics, right? How Saskatoon berries can be helpful for diabetes, right? And I also talk about the 4 sacred plants of tobacco and cedar, sage, and sweetgrass. And I think I was telling you earlier about my niece who was experiencing this, what they call long COVID. And I mentioned to her the nicotine patch. So, you know, recognizing something that's sacred sometimes is vilified or it's misunderstood because we're mixing it with hundreds of different chemicals. That's not the same thing. Cigarettes and tobacco are 2 different things.
Correct.
And how this beautiful plant actually is a very potent medicine. And how we, again, become curious. Somebody told me about this. Is this actually true?
Right.
And then think about what are those plants that our ancestors have always walked with, you know, made them strong, healthy, and we're able to help with the healing when we have a stomach ache or a headache or we've cut ourselves or other, you know, ailments that can happen.
So you're really showing us in this very modern day of change that the plant life is really there to remind us of supporting wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness.
And our spiritual, right? Because these sacred plants, we would take the time to do our prayers, right? To speak to our ancestors, to express our gratitude.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Maybe how you found it with other avenues that you've found support in the plant life in your life?
Well, you made me think of a quick story. So there's a beautiful professor out at UBC, and she wrote a book called Finding the Mother Tree. Her name is Suzanne Simard. And when Suzanne was presenting her book in 2020, when it came out, she said there are 3 functions of the forest for it to stay strong and healthy. And I recognize that plants are our teachers. So in that moment, it was that pay attention so I could share this story outward. And the first attribute for a forest to be strong and healthy is it has to collaborate. So for us to really think about how can we start this dialogue of collaboration, that even the voices that don't speak this language are heard at the table, right? That we're thinking about all of our relatives, right? The second is it's altruistic. So it's kind. The forest is kind. And we know through now the study of the mycelium, that rooting system of mushrooms, they're moving nutrients and water to other species within the forest, right? So the forest is not one species, it's multiple species. And diversity is instrumental for our survival on the planet. So we want that diversity, plants, animals, insects, and the human family. And then the third one is generous. So I'm working with a grade 5 class, and I have that aha moment where I say to the kids, we have to diversify how we get the dopamine, right? So they're like, what's dopamine, right? This neurotransmitter that makes us feel good. We get it when we run and when we hug each other, when we smile, eat good food. Pleasure gives us dopamine, sex, right? Of course, they always freak out when I say that word. But this one little girl, she's like hopping up and down at the front of the class, and she goes, I know how you get the most amount of dopamine. And I was like, oh, how's that? She said, when you give. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. So that's the teaching of the forest. And I recognized that was reminding us how we live, how we walk, how we collaborate, how we contribute, how we behave, how we can really live our lives fully when we activate our own technology. Nice. Well, thank you so much for being with us. So amazing. Do you want to share the name of your book and maybe how people can find it? And yes. So it's called Revered Roots, Ancestral Teachings and Wisdom of Wild, Native, and Medicinal Plants. And you can find it at your local bookstore. I'm all about the local economy. You can also find it online. And I'm on Instagram, Earth and Company, at LoriAnn Bird. And hopefully we can have a conversation, or you can reach out. And I trust this is going to be really, really helpful as we move ourselves into the future of, regeneration, remembering, celebration. Yeah, let's live good, long lives. Thank you. Well, let's take a few moments and just kind of close our eyes and just really kind of feel that plant life, our earth, our home. This is our home we live on, our earth. We'll give gratitude for that, and just ourselves to be here, and thank yourself for gathering this wisdom too. May we be blessed, and may we take these blessings out into the world. Namaste. Thank you so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again. All my relations. All my relations.
Thank you for listening to the Zen Den with your host, Maggie Calder. We hope this episode has provided you with a moment of peace in your busy day. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone who could use a little love today. To learn more about Maggie's offerings, visit thezenden.world or email us at thezendenworld@gmail.com. You will find us on all the social media platforms too. In kindness from all of us at the Zen Den, be well.
This podcast was made with love from Shikonomi and the global community of Podcast Hers.